Hey there, amazing friends. I warmly invite you to join me on this exciting journey by subscribing to my channel, liking, commenting, and sharing my videos. Every like, comment, and share brings us closer together and fuels my passion to create more great content. Your support truly makes all the difference. Thank you for being the heart of this community. Letters in the grip of a dark charm. The deep secret of nightmare mail piling up in a sealed house. In the outskirts of a once thriving town, shrouded by gnarled trees and creeping ivy, there stood a house that had long been abandoned, a relic of faded grandeur sealed off from the world by rusted chains and heavy creaking doors. Locals referred to it in hushed tones as the Sealed House, a place of whispered legends and unspeakable mysteries. For decades, no one had set foot inside its crumbling walls until one fateful autumn when an inexplicable phenomenon began to occur. A steady, ominous pile of mail started appearing on its weathered doorstep. At first, it was only a single envelope, its paper brittle and ink faded, bearing no return address, and written in a spidery, almost archaic hand. Over subsequent nights, however, the mail multiplied, each letter seemingly possessed by a dark charm, accumulating on the threshold as if some unseen force were compelled to deliver its message. The letters were peculiar beyond measure. Some were typed in an old-fashioned typewriter font, others handwritten in a looping, desperate script. Many contained cryptic symbols and fragments of sentences that hinted at long-forgotten tragedies. They spoke of sorrow, of guilt, and of curses that had bound a family to a fate of eternal torment. One letter, yellowed by time and edged with what looked like dried blood, read simply, "Remember me, before the silence takes all." Another, written in spidery cursive, warned, "The past is never dead. It lingers in the shadows, waiting for the light to reveal its horrors." As the stack of letters grew, so did the town's dread and fascination. Rumors spread that these were not mere misdelivered bills or stray postcards, but a deliberate supernatural missive from the beyond, a nightmare mail that carried the dark secrets of a cursed past. Intrigued by these accounts and unable to resist the lure of the unknown, Julian, a freelance investigative journalist with a penchant for paranormal mysteries, decided to uncover the truth. Julian had built his reputation on stories that blurred the lines between reality and myth, and the legend of the sealed house and its eerie letters promised to be his most challenging assignment yet. With his camera, voice recorder, and a notebook filled with local legends and half-heard whispers, he set out on a brisk October evening to the house that had been abandoned for nearly 30 years. The air was crisp, and a thin fog began to curl around the base of the hill as he approached. Every step he took along the overgrown path heightened his senses, the crunch of brittle leaves underfoot, the distant call of a night bird, and the foreboding silence that seemed to emanate from the very walls of the house. Before Julian reached the front door, he paused to examine the letters that lay haphazardly arranged on the threshold. They were stacked neatly, as if sorted by some unseen hand, and each envelope bore a unique insignia, a small stylized emblem of an hourglass intertwined with a serpent, its meaning lost to time, but its presence unmistakable. With trembling hands, Julian picked up the nearest envelope and opened it carefully. The letter inside was written in a hurried scrawl, its words chiseled into the paper with a fervor that suggested desperation. "In this house, our pain is preserved. In these letters, our voices cry out. Do not let our story be forgotten, or you shall join us in eternal silence." A chill ran down his spine as he realized that the letters were not random spam or a cruel prank. They were the echo of voices trapped in a dark covenant, desperate to be heard. Compelled by a mixture of professional duty and personal curiosity, Julian pushed open the heavy, groaning door and stepped into the dim interior of the sealed house. Dust motes danced in the pale light, that seeped through cracked windows, and the air was heavy with the scent of mildew and ancient regrets. Every surface, from the sagging staircase to the peeling wallpaper, bore the weight of decades of abandonment and sorrow. As Julian made his way through the foyer, his flashlight beam revealed portraits of stern-faced ancestors whose eyes seemed to follow him in silent accusation. The atmosphere was thick with an almost palpable despair, and it felt as if the house itself mourned the lives that had once animated its halls. In the parlor, Julian discovered more evidence of the house's tragic past. Old furniture lay draped in white sheets, and a grand piano, its keys yellowed and chipped, sat silently in the corner. On a mantel near the fireplace, he found a collection of photographs, sepia-toned images of a once happy family, now ghostly and forlorn. One photograph in particular caught his eye. It depicted a young girl with wide, sorrowful eyes clutching a small, ornate locket. On the back of the photo, in faded ink, was written the date, October 13, 1983, a date that local lore claimed marked the beginning of the curse. The legend said that on that fateful night, a terrible tragedy had struck the family that once lived here, and that the ensuing despair had somehow bound their souls to the house, manifesting in the ceaseless arrival of nightmare mail. As Julian explored deeper into the house, he entered a narrow corridor that led to a series of rooms locked in time. One door, slightly ajar, revealed a cramped study filled with stacks of letters piled high on an ancient desk. It was as if someone or something had been diligently writing and sending these letters even after the house had been abandoned. Julian carefully sifted through the fragile papers, finding more chilling messages, desperate pleas for help, cryptic references to the eternal night, and warnings that the past would eventually reclaim its due. In one particularly harrowing note, scrawled in a spidery, trembling hand, the writer lamented, "We are trapped in the grip of a dark charm. Every word we write is our last, for soon the silence will descend, and we shall vanish into oblivion." The realization struck Julian like a physical blow. These letters were not simply remnants of a long-dead era. They were an ongoing cry from beyond, a call to break a curse that had held the souls of the family captive for decades. Haunted by the pervasive melancholy that seemed to seep from every crevice of the sealed house, Julian resolved to uncover the full story behind the curse. He spent the following days poring over local archives, interviewing elderly residents, and delving into forgotten records that hinted at a dark chapter in the town's history. According to his research, the family that once inhabited the house had been renowned for their prosperity and kind-hearted nature until a series of inexplicable misfortunes began to plague them. Whispers of betrayal, of forbidden rituals conducted in secret, and of an ancient curse invoked by a scorned lover began to circulate. One account described how the patriarch, in a desperate bid to secure his legacy, had made a pact with a mysterious figure, a sorceress, or perhaps a vengeful spirit, promising wealth and power in exchange for eternal loyalty. But the bargain came with a terrible cost. As the years passed, misfortune befell the family, and their once bright future dimmed into a relentless darkness. On that fateful October night, when the curse was said to have been sealed, the family's world collapsed. Some claimed that the young girl in the photograph had been the last living embodiment of their hope, her innocent life snuffed out by the malevolent force that now haunted the house. Others believed that the letters were the only remnant of their desperate struggle, a way to reach out to the world, to beg for redemption, and to warn future generations of the dangers that lurk when one tampers with forces beyond understanding. Armed with these revelations, Julian returned to the sealed house one stormy night, determined to capture undeniable proof of the curse. Thunder rumbled overhead as he set up his equipment, a high-definition camera, a digital recorder, and a portable spectral analyzer in the study where the letters lay scattered. As midnight approached and the wind howled like a chorus of lost souls, the atmosphere in the room shifted. The temperature dropped precipitously, and the previously inert letters began to tremble as if stirred by an invisible hand. Julian's recorder picked up a faint murmur, a sorrowful sigh that seemed to emanate from the very paper itself. With trembling fingers, he turned on his camera and focused on a single envelope that lay at the top of the pile. In that moment, the envelope fluttered open as if beckoning him to read its contents. The letter inside was unlike any he had seen before. It was written in an elegant flowing script that glowed faintly under the dim light, and its words appeared to shift and shimmer as if alive. Break the cycle, free our souls, for the darkness grows with each passing day. The words, both a plea and a warning, sent a chill through Julian's heart. In the distance, a low, mournful wail echoed through the corridors of the house, a sound that seemed to rise from the walls and reverberate through the very foundation of the building. For what felt like an eternity, Julian sat transfixed in that room, the letter in his hand burning with a cold intensity that defied explanation. The curse was not just a story. It was a living, pulsing presence that had ensnared the family and bound them to the sealed house for decades. Every letter, every whisper of paper was imbued with the agony of lives lost and the desperate longing for release. In that moment of profound isolation and terror, Julian realized that the nightmare mail was more than a supernatural phenomenon. It was a chronicle of human sorrow, a record of a tragic legacy that demanded to be acknowledged. In the days that followed, Julian's investigation deepened. He carefully transcribed the letters, piecing together fragmented narratives that revealed a tapestry of betrayal, forbidden love, and cursed destinies. He discovered that the curse might be linked to a particular family heirloom, a silver locket worn by the young girl in the old photograph. The locket, rumored to be hidden in a secret compartment beneath the floorboards of the study, was said to contain a lock of hair and a tiny, faded portrait. According to local lore, the locket was the key to breaking the dark charm, a relic that, if restored to its rightful place, could potentially lift the curse and allow the restless spirits to finally find peace. Compelled by a mix of scientific inquiry and empathetic resolve, Julian embarked on a final, daring quest to locate the locket. With the help of a few trusted locals, an elderly woman who remembered the family's tragic past, and a young historian fascinated by the occult, he conducted a meticulous search of the sealed house. Hidden beneath layers of dust and debris, behind a loose floorboard in the study, Julian uncovered a small, intricately carved wooden box. Inside lay the silver locket, tarnished by time, but still radiating a quiet, almost sorrowful beauty. The discovery sent a surge of emotion through him. Here was tangible evidence of a legacy that had been locked away for far too long, a secret that might hold the power to undo decades of despair. That stormy night, as the wind battered the sealed house and the sound of distant thunder provided a grim percussion, Julian prepared a ritual as described in one of the most cryptic letters. With the locket in one hand and the ancient envelope clutched in the other, he recited the incantation recorded in his notes, a plea for forgiveness, for release, and for the lifting of the unholy burden that had plagued the family for generations. As he spoke, the room grew colder still, and the flickering candlelight seemed to intensify, casting elongated, dancing shadows across the walls. For a moment, the very air vibrated with a tension that was almost tangible, as if the house itself were holding its breath. Then, with a sudden burst of energy, the locket began to glow softly, its silver surface pulsing like the beat of a forlorn heart. The letters scattered on the desk rustled, as if stirred by an unseen breeze, and the mournful wail that had haunted Julian's recordings swelled to a near crystalline clarity. In that climactic moment, as the incantation reached its final, desperate syllables, a spectral vision manifested before Julian's eyes, a vision of the young girl from the faded photograph, her eyes wide with sorrow and her delicate hand outstretched as if to accept the locket. For a heartbeat, she seemed to smile, a fragile, bittersweet expression that conveyed both relief and eternal longing. Then, as the glow of the locket faded and the spectral figure dissolved into the shadows, the room fell into a profound silence. The oppressive chill lifted, and the sealed house, for the first time in decades, seemed to exhale a long-awaited sigh of relief. In the aftermath of that night, the mysterious letters ceased their relentless arrival. The pile of nightmare mail on the doorstep slowly dwindled, as if the house itself had finally released the burden of its tragic past. The local community, which had long lived in the shadow of the cursed legacy, began to whisper of a miracle, a small, hopeful change that hinted at redemption after generations of sorrow. Julian's detailed account of his investigation, the discovery of the locket, and the chilling ritual he performed spread far beyond the borders of the forgotten town, igniting debates among paranormal researchers, historians, and skeptics alike. While some dismissed the entire episode as the product of an overactive imagination fueled by local superstition, many others found themselves captivated by the possibility that the darkest corners of our history still hold secrets that can be unearthed, understood, and perhaps even healed. For those who listen to this tale, the story of the sealed house and its cursed letters is not merely a ghost story or a fanciful legend. It is a poignant reminder of the power of memory and the enduring weight of unresolved tragedies. It challenges us to consider how the past, with all its pain and sorrow, can linger in the most unexpected places, waiting for a brave soul to shine a light upon it. And it invites us to reflect on our own lives, on the secrets we bury, and the legacies we leave behind. In the quiet interplay of dark charm and silver light, in the rustle of ancient paper and the soft murmur of a long-forgotten incantation, there lies the truth that some wounds, no matter how deeply hidden, are not meant to remain sealed forever. So, as you listen to this narrative, let your imagination wander to that lonely, overgrown house on the outskirts of town, a house where every creaking floorboard, every whisper of wind, and every faded letter carries a story of love, loss, and the desperate hope for redemption. Picture yourself standing before its time-worn door, feeling the weight of centuries of sorrow pressing against your heart, and imagine the transformative power of uncovering secrets long held captive by darkness. For in the grip of a dark charm, in the silent testament of nightmare mail, we may yet discover that the past is not a chain that binds us, but a tapestry from which we can learn to weave a future free from the haunting echoes of despair.